Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, a parallel paramilitary-run government for Sudan ramps up the stakes in the country's brutal civil war. The RSF's gambit is likely to further inflame its rivalry with the army. Also, Kinshasa estimates more than 7,000 people have been killed in eastern DR Congo in M23 rebels' recent offensive. The Rwanda-backed militia claimed to be conscripting Congolese soldiers who surrendered to their onslaught. And Eritrean star Henok Mulubaran wins the first stage of the Tour of Rwanda as the continent's hardcore cycling community lock in on the road race competition ahead of the World Championships, which are due to be held in Africa for the first time later this year. But first, the UN has warned that Sudan's war has turned a dangerous corner. The RSF paramilitary have created a parallel government after signing an agreement in Kenya with aligned political and civilian groups. But the move adds to the complexity to the battle for power with the army. Since fighting broke out in April 2023, tens of thousands of people have been killed, and the fallout's created the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Olivia Bizo gets us up to speed.
After hours of waiting, we finally got the news at around 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. A charter had been signed. The document was signed by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces and 23 other groups behind closed doors. And the objective of the charter is to establish a parallel government in areas under paramilitary Rapid Support Force control. Now, the process of getting this document signed was a real rollercoaster. The event was supposed to happen at the beginning of last week. It was then cancelled. We were told it would then be signed on Friday, and it was once again postponed until Saturday at 3 p.m. But when we got to the KICC building where the event was supposed to be taking place on Saturday afternoon, we were once again told it was cancelled without any further explanation. Now, the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces' presence here in Nairobi has been hugely criticised ever since they arrived at the beginning of last week, especially by Kenyan politicians who've condemned Ruto for not only hosting them here in Nairobi, but also at the KICC, which is one of the city's most iconic buildings, when this group has been accused of crimes against humanity and of committing a genocide. The Sudanese army has also been very vocal in its criticism towards President William Ruto, but the president and his Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary have defended Kenya's role. They've said that the country has been providing a platform to end the civil war, which began in April of 2023.
Olivia Bizo there for us. Now, Kenyan police say that an officer deployed to Haiti as part of an anti-gang security mission there has been killed on duty. A deployment of around 700 troops that Nairobi sent for the UN-backed mission to the Caribbean nation has seen the victim be one of the first from the Kenyan contingent. And he was reportedly fatally shot by Haitian gangsters during an operation in the rural Artibonite region on Sunday. He was airlifted out of the area but did not survive his injuries. The UK Foreign Office is reportedly considering bringing in sanctions against Rwanda over its role in fighting in neighbouring DR Congo. Kinshasa says that more than 7,000 people have been killed this year alone since Kigali-backed M23 rebels ramped up their lightning offensive in the east of DR Congo. After taking the city of Goma at the end of January, they've been consolidating their control and capture of other towns. The rebels claim that they've conscripted thousands of Congolese security forces who surrendered to the militia. It is difficult to verify this claim from outside of the cities taken by the M23, but the claim alone adds to the complex tensions of the conflict. This update from Catherine Norris-Trent, who's in the Congolese capital.
A large number of Congolese police officers arrived at the port of Goma, having crossed Lake Kivu from the town of Bukavu Both towns controlled by M23 rebels, now backed by Rwanda. The M23 said that these Congolese police officers had surrendered and voluntarily joined their cause, a claim impossible to independently verify, especially given the presence of armed rebels during this operation. The police officers were taken to the stadium in Goma, where they were told that they would be sent away for ideology training before returning to work. A few of the police officers spoke to our reporter on the ground.
We're police officers who used to work in Bukavu, and we were told to come here for retraining to get a different ideology before going back to work. That's why we've come here all together. We were called and we answered that call. We will go to a centre to start reforms so that we can work again with a good ideology and peace of mind.
À l'entrée des mouvements M23,
When the M23 movement entered our town, many of the police were afraid they're only human beings, and they fled south to Uvira. We who stayed behind followed the instructions from neighborhood leaders posted in the streets. They called on the police to come out of hiding and report to the movement which had entered. When we reported, they took us and told us that we were going to Goma for retraining, and that's how we ended up here.
Also in Goma, footage has emerged showing a group of around 10 young men apparently shot dead. Now, the residents of a neighborhood of Goma near the Katindo military camp said that they were local young men who'd been shot on Saturday by the M23. A spokesman for the rebels confirmed that they had been carrying out, quote, a combing and clearing operation in the zone. He said to try and increase security in Goma. He said that the men had been family members of Congolese soldiers, members of militias and drug users.
Well, Nigerian authorities have been cracking down on fake and counterfeit medication widely in circulation in the countries. Dozens of trucks of contraband drugs have been seized recently in a series of raids. Samuel Okoye tells us more.
Nigeria's National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has embarked on a major crackdown on counterfeit drugs. 80 truckloads of fake, dangerous and expired drugs have been impounded in the 3 markets so far raided. The agency discovered that products donated by USAID and antiretrovirals, which are for free use, are being sold in the markets. Drugs were also poorly stored, with those that are supposed to be under refrigeration stored in poorly ventilated warehouses. Some of the recovered medicines were kept under unsanitary conditions. More recoveries are expected to be made as the agency raids other markets in the country. Fake drugs are flooding the Nigerian markets from Asia, while some are being made locally. Nigeria is one of the largest markets for fake drugs and for fake and unsafe drugs. The situation has worsened in recent times, with major pharmaceutical companies pulling out of the country on account of a worsening economy. The exit of these companies have created more openings for unsafe drugs to flood the market. The sale of fake and substandard drugs is a major public health issue in Nigeria. Thousands of people die yearly after using counterfeit or unsafe medication.
Meanwhile, Gabon's electricity supply has long been unreliable, but power shortages have been getting worse in major cities. The transitional government says the crisis is down to the failure of the previous regime to invest. Our team reports.
Several neighborhoods in Libreville are plunged into darkness due to prolonged power cuts. Businesses and individuals alike have to adapt. Cassandra, a 30-year-old mother, is forced to sometimes iron her children's clothes in the middle of the night when the light unexpectedly return.
I've got kids going to school and I have to get them ready. I'm stressed because I don't know when the power will come back on.
Business owners in Gabon's capital are tired of the constant blackouts in parts of the country. Rebecca, who runs a cafe in the city center, has to regularly check whether her drinks are still fresh. These untimely power cuts often damage her fridge, and this greatly affects her sales.
When there are power cuts, we can't sell fresh drinks. We lose customers. If we don't have income, how will we survive? We dread the end of the month.
The country's ruling transition and restoration government blamed the ousted regime of President Ali Bongo for the dilapidated equipment of Gabon's energy and water company that is causing the power shortages. Libreville's current electricity supply is about 240 megawatts compared to an estimated household demand of 330 megawatts. This leaves a shortfall of 100 megawatts, which the Gabonese government is now addressing.
Our demand exceeds current supply. Our equipment is not working properly. We haven't changed it. We're doing everything right now to fill the energy gap that we currently have.
Faced with the energy crisis in Libreville, the Gabonese government has just signed a power purchase agreement with a Turkish company. The agreement aims to inject an additional 70 megawatts into the national grid.
Well, cycling fans from across the continent and beyond are following the 17th Tour of Rwanda. The 7th-stage international competition began in Kigali and runs until the 2nd of March. The first stage was won on Monday by Eritrean star Henok Muliburan. Many competitors are actually gearing up for September's UCI Road World Championships, which will be held in Africa for the first time, when it's also beginning in Kigali.
2, 1, here we go. The 17th edition of Tour de Rwanda.
My name is Didier Munyaneza. I'm the Rwanda national team captain. This Tour of Rwanda will show all the people how the team is, especially as like a national team and the other team from Rwanda. It's good for us to see all the Rwandans they are behind us. That is why even as we have pressure, but it's a good pressure to give them happiness, because it's our duty.
It's always a pleasure to come to Rwanda. It's one of the biggest stage races in Africa. It's well organized and there's a good atmosphere. And I think it's becoming a race that's a must for all African cyclists. So that's why we're here, to identify the talent and then try to see how we can support them afterwards.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.